Today we have an exciting episode on Starseed Children or Star Children. They've been coming in since the 50s and 60s, but primarily the 70s when we started with the Indigo children. And then we're going to go through all the different kinds up to the present time and see what their characteristics are, what they're here for. Why are they all of a sudden coming at this time? I believe that it's probably been happening throughout history. If we go back to like ancient Lemuria and Atlantis, where they had different societies, and then we have Egyptians, and we have different writings on different walls of different kinds of pyramids and caves throughout time with different heritages. So I don't believe that this is something new, but why all of a sudden this time where we're moving into the age of Aquarius, and what some would say the five-dimensional reality. Why are these kids coming? What's their purpose? And how are they getting here? Some people believe that when we're born, we're just born, and when we die, we die. Other people believe that there's no creator or God, and there's all kinds of beliefs, but a lot of people believe in the cycle of reincarnation, where when we exit this life, we come back reborn into another life here again on Earth, and then the cycle continues until there's a certain point of enlightenment is achieved, or self-realization or cosmic consciousness, where we advance from this planet and move on to maybe other star systems, or become a star, or be part of a galaxy, or move on to some interior plane of the universe, like the astral world or the astral plane. That we've learned that, like in Autobiography of a Yogi, the Yogananda's master appeared to him in a vision and told him that he was asked by God to be in charge and look after the astral world. So we know from enlightened masters that these different domains exist that we normally aren't aware of. And so, putting it in context, I'm just saying these children are coming from, it seems like, different parts of the galaxy all of a sudden, or they're enlightened or non-enlightened in certain regards. And so in astrology, we have transcendent planets. So if we take Pluto, for instance, he moves very, very slowly. And so all the kids born in a certain generation will be going through the same Plutonian experience as a collective through the whole planet. So it would be in a different position in a different house, but they would all have, say, like if they were born today, they would all have Pluto in Capricorn for over a decade. And sometimes up to 30 years, Pluto's in a sign. So it's moving a little faster now. And then same for Uranus and Neptune. They all have those in those signs. So all the kids right now born would all have Neptune in Pisces for the whole world. And same thing with Uranus. Everyone would have Uranus in Taurus right now for the whole world. And so those planets affect some form of experience or change for that generation to experience. So older generations would have, say, somebody that has Pluto in, say, Leo, or even Cancer, or maybe not Cancer, but just say Leo. They would all be experiencing a Leo experience of some form, but they're old. So this whole shift of what's happening would be totally different understanding for somebody in an older age group that's in their 70s and 80s than would be somebody in their 40s and 50s. And then it would be a different experience for somebody in their 20s and 30s, and then teenagers down on down. So we all experienced life through these different lenses of these outer planets together as a collective. So let's now take a look at these children, and I'm going to show pictures so you'll see like characteristic differences that I found online, and it's really fascinating. So I hope you enjoy this video. So let's get started with the presentation. How do the Starseed children, the Indigos, Crystalline and Rainbow, fit into our world? So these are the Indigo children. So if you look, this kid's kind of goofy. This one's kind of mystical with the eyes. This one seems kind of, angry or rebellious. And this kid, I think he kind of belongs in another category, but he's just got this stare about him. So the characteristics of Indigo children are, first of all, they started being born between the 50s and 60s, mostly after the 70s. So the characteristics are they have deep violet blue auras. I remember years ago, there was a woman, the first woman who ever saw this, all of a sudden they could see these auras different than other people. I don't even know if she called them auras at the time. She just saw the people as color. And all of a sudden she saw a different color of indigo people that were young. And I think that she wrote a book, and that's where the Indigo children came from, was this one woman that saw people as colors. So she didn't see like you and me as white, black, or yellow, green. She saw these people just as like indigo, or like a collective group would be a certain color. So they're here to shift old ways and paradigms. They're nonconformists, independent, headstrong, and they challenge authority. They may show anger as a way to support their truth. They're very intuitive, empathic, emotionally sensitive. They are highly creative with an artistic flair in music, poetry, painting, and dance. These people bore easily, they're impatient, and they resist change. That kind of was like the picture of that girl I showed in the last slide. She seemed to be in that category. These people are often diagnosed with ADD or ADHD. They act with grandiosity or low self-esteem. They often present themselves with self-sabotage. They often isolate themselves, but can be a true friend. They bond easily with animals. They're prone to insomnia, addictions, depression, and suicide. And they want to help the world. And they're right brain dominant visual learners. So years ago, I was told by a woman that I was an indigo, even though I have no proof of that because I cannot see colors. I come after the 1970 birth date there. So now we move on to the Crystalline children. Look at their eyes. Look how happy they are. These people are dressed kind of like spiritual, or, people that dress this way often live a different lifestyle than the materialistic work all day and night, buy the fancy car kind of a look I'm going with here. So the characteristics of the Crystalline children, they're usually born in 1995 or later. So the Indigos were going up into this point, and now we've reached 1995. They have very large eyes, usually blue or very dark, with an intense stare, as those pictures showed. They possess magnetic personalities. Some are late talkers. Some prefer to sing versus talking because it's a higher frequency. They're empathic and absorb and give energy. They're very artistic and creative. They're interested in rocks and crystals. And since this time of them coming here, I've noticed a huge increase in rock shops and crystals and crystal jewelry and people doing crystal grids and all kinds of making these pyramids with shapes. I can't think of the name of it right now, but really awesome things out of crystals. This is probably coming from the Crystalline Children. They often discuss past life memories. I've had many friends with children that talk about past life memories. They love animals and can communicate telepathically, and they are highly affectionate. So here we have star children. Now check these people. These eyes out are insane. They've got these big eyes. You can the characteristics stand out, and they're dark or they're super blue. So here we have this child with dark eyes, but they're big. And now we have this kid with the coolest eyes I've ever seen, as one super blue and one really dark, like black. I mean, it reminds me of animals I've seen with different colored eyes. That's really a special trait. And then look at how blue this girl's eyes are. They're almost like transparent, like she can see through you. I mean, this eye looks like like he's a star child. These eyes just look like they're star children alone. And same with this one. They just have these wide, big eyes, and they all kind of have like a look on their face, So the characteristics of star children. Before we go to the characteristics, we got to go to when they're born. So the approximate age range begins with those born in 1997 or 1998 to the present time. So now there's going to be more children moving forward, but these kids are still in the grouping. So not every kid born in a certain time is a star child, just like every kid in my era wasn't born an indigo child. There's just certain ones that come in for a certain reason, that are these certain colors, that have these characteristics. This is not set in concrete, as there are some that are a little older than this, so they could come before 97 or 98. The eyes are crystal blue or very deep dark color, like we just saw with those kids. They're amazing. They will look at us as if we have known them forever. We have. Great sensitivity to environment, the planet, and feelings of others. They are extremely intuitive, generally telepathic. So they don't need to really say much because they're picking up on other people's thoughts. They're socially conscious. And they have an innate command for subtle energy, so they can pick up frequency. These kids can, like, walk into a store and no, stay away from that person, or they can command the subtle energy for like being a healer. Even they just sense vibrational frequency. That's what subtle energy is. So they can think compartmentally. They appear very scattered in their attention, extremely compassionate. So appear very scattered in their attention. That almost sounds like what they used to call it, like ADD. They can't pay attention. And it's probably because their learning style is different. They don't learn the old way of just sitting there memorizing. They want to be learning like hands-on, or trips, or there's all kinds of creative ways these kids are want to transform the world on how to learn and what really resonates with them. And sitting there reading a book, trying to memorize years and dates does not resonate with these type of children. I know that. So they're extremely compassionate, cannot abide conflict of any kind. They take it personally. So they intake this conflict in themselves. They're wise beyond their years. So that usually relates to what people term as old souls. They're peacemakers, natural healing abilities, like I talked about a second ago with the subtle energy. They're fragile. When their world becomes too uncomfortable, they have a tendency to become sick with often unidentifiable sicknesses. So a story, I don't know if this friend of mine has a star child, but I had a client come to me for 3 years every week. I was doing energy healing and different kinds of things back then, and she had a son that could not get out of bed for 3 years. He would break his ribs being so sick by vomiting, and his spinal column would break, and he didn't have any fluid in his can't remember if it was pineal gland or pituitary gland, and he went to every doctor, and they were trying to get him into Stanford, and no one could figure out what the cause was. He was like a brilliant child at one of the most highly regarded schools in the state. There was a private school for the elite children that were super duper talented, and just like that, sick. No friends anymore. They hardly can see him. He can never leave the house. It was very sad. And I still think he may be in that state. I haven't talked to her in like a year. So it was looking bad. And I tried everything I could to help her. But that's what we're talking about with these star children. They're very fragile. Sweeping energy fields of jewel tones or pastel spectrums. Often remember past lives or their experiences between lives. So that's very interesting. There's videos out there on that's fascinating. I remember there was a parent that the mom and dad had this kid, and he was talking about being a pilot in some war and that his name was something else. Maybe you've heard stories like this. And they went and looked it up. They went and found, because it was military, they could go back and look it up. And this guy died in a fighter jet or fighter plane years ago. And his name was exactly the name of the group that the child knew. He knew it. So he knew his experience of past life. Now, some even know of their experience in between lives. So the interdimensional part of in between the life, where you're in the non-physical. That is a fascinating topic in and of itself. So here we have the rainbow children. I saw on, I think I was watching Lori Ladd several months ago, and she had on a family that mother and father quit taking their kids to regular school, and they got a motor home. They were traveling the country to learn. The kids love to learn in different ways, and the mom would teach them, and they would go to zoos and farms and mountains and parks and rivers, and it was the coolest thing. And these kids were super smart, and they knew all about their lives, and they knew a lot about past lives. They were like, they knew some phenomenal things. And one of the things that stood out to me was the boy loved wearing rainbow colors. He was a rainbow child. So this is one of the kids that was on her show. If you haven't seen that show of hers, you should check it out. It's really fascinating. but it was quite a ways back, so you'd have to dig. So they're usually born from 2000 to the present. They're builders of the new world. So remember, we talked about why are these children coming here with these abilities, or these, these different feelings and emotions. Like we've talked about, some are empathetic, some can feel subtle energy and move subtle energy. Some can, some are telepathic. So these ones are the builders of the new world, and they're the rainbow color. So they're every color of the rainbow. That's pretty, just thinking of the symbology of a rainbow is interesting. This is their first incarnation on Earth, and they come with no karma. So they haven't been in this karmic wheel that I explained at the beginning. So I don't believe that these kids that come here because their soul or their home planet or their the beings that are connected with God. When you're in the spirit world, there's all kinds of beings and healers and teachers and all these things, and there's councils and things of that nature. I believe they send these kids to planets all around the world when they need something, when a planet's raising in vibrational frequency, and they're at that level or beyond, and they're not gonna have to collect the karma that comes with having to achieve the goal that they were asked to come here to do. And I'll explain this more in detail in a minute when we get down into the chart. But it's very cool to know that not everyone is in a karmic wheel. You can transcend that. And a lot of that has to do with meditating, but it also has to do with going to these other places and learning different things and how they work and how the world works or the universe works. So often know advanced information without knowing how they know it. So that's that's almost beyond psychic or intuitive. These people have this ability. It's almost like they've had this divine experience where their minds expanded, like what happens in meditation, and they're just connected to that cosmic knowledge. They know, and when they know, and you're not going to change their position. They're here to change. They're builders of the new world, so they're not listening to what the people before them came here and have to say. So because they know what they already know what they need to know to do. So that's very important. It's like imprinted in their energetic structure or their harmonic energy centers is programmed. Their brain is, the grooves in the brain are programmed to what they're here to do. The parents are crystal children. So the parents were special already. And now they're bringing in another type because these kids need parents that really understand. We're talking parents are crystal children. Crystal people use crystals for healing and all kinds of different things. I have crystal grids in my house. I have crystals at all the corners for protection. So, and I'm not a crystal child, but I know what they are used for. Probably, well, it came to me intuitively one day and I just started doing it. And then I found out later. So but they're very in tune with stones and their natural capabilities. So this is all about going back to Earth and their capabilities and the restoring of using natural products and not so much all this man-made crap. When I talk about man-made crap, just walk through the grocery store and you have one section that's vegetables and fruit, and the rest of it is man-made junk with MSG, sugars, and who knows what else. So this is what these kids are here to change. Dedicated to service and giving. They're full of joy, fearlessness, non-judgmental, and loving to everyone. They're healers, using the full spectrum of rainbow energy of the sun. So there's a very good book by, I think it's Danielle Rama, and she channels Thoth, the Egyptian god. And she does the Emerald Tablets of Light. She's got a book, and it talks about using the different energies of different colors. And I remember specifically there's a meditation and a way to learn how to use the rainbow energy of the sun. So she connects with the Egyptians, and the sun is, Ra, would be the sun god Ra, and rainbow, it starts with Ra. So there's a connection there with Ra and Inbo. I don't know what the Inbo, but there's a connection there that somebody out there probably can put together. So that's very interesting. So if you haven't checked out that book, that's a fascinating book on using colors of light to heal yourself. And that's what we're kind of talking about here in this Rainbow Children. They're very spiritual and contemplative. And likewise, adults in children's bodies may seem aloof, but need to be touched. That's funny because I have a friend whose son touches everybody, but he doesn't like to be touched. He's like the opposite of that. He wants to touch everything. He can't even walk into a room without touching somebody. So this is the opposite. These people need to be touched. Drawn to color, manifest easily, and they drink lots of fluids. Want to stay hydrated. And now we're down to the Diamond Children. So these kids have different abilities. If you've ever watched the movie The Matrix, where the kid holds up a spoon and he bends it, this is kind of like what we're talking about now. This girl in this picture right here, she's holding these in space with energy, or with her consciousness. So consciousness is intelligence, and intelligence is energy. And these kids are they're coming in knowing how to use that conscious intelligence energy on the same scale, from a telepathic point of view, to make these things happen. It's how they're understanding consciousness in ways that they probably can't even explain at this point, but it's the knowing. They like building things, erecting things, and look how happy they are. Look at how happy these babies are. This is another characteristic of the diamond. So characteristics of the Diamond Children are, they are the most recent wave of children. So it's now. There's no time frame. This is they're in the now, right now, coming in. The first incarnation on Earth with the highest vibrational frequency seen so far. So that should tell us something as the planet's moving into 5D. The kids are coming in able to handle the frequency. But not only that, they're able to help people that don't hold that frequency yet. Think of frequency as like light bulbs. So if I hold a dim frequency or a dark frequency, and all these people around me are holding darker frequencies, and then these kids come in with radiant frequencies, that lights up everything in their sphere. It's how enlightenment and peace is achieved, is when these people come in with high vibrational frequencies. It affects the consciousness of everyone around them. So their parents, their friends, their teachers, their grandparents, walking into the grocery store. These kids affect the change because they're in that vibration already. It's something that most of us have I've striven to achieve for 20 years of doing spiritual practice and meditation and pranayama and doing, harmonizing my energy. These kids are already coming in with that, because that's what it's going to take to change the thinking patterns and the frequencies going out of that's the way the change happens. It's almost like you don't even realize it, but you have when you're in a high vibrational frequency, they have this invincibility kind of about them. And that's why we're going to see down here, they're peacekeepers. They're unfamiliar with anger, war, and hatred, because hatred can exist in an enlightened state. So enlightened masters have talked about this state that a lot of people aren't aware of. But when people think of, changing their consciousness, or they want to achieve world peace, and they want to legislate it for everybody, like, we're going to legislate through the United Nations that we won't go to war. No, that never happens. We've seen it through the Vietnam War and Afghanistan and Iraq and all these things going on. It doesn't end. Peace is achieved in here within the individual, and the individual affects the mass consciousness. The more people that get this vibrational frequency, the higher their consciousness grows. They are in a state that is beyond anger or war. It's not the absence, it's the attunement of the energy coming into the body, the attunement with the source. And as you have that frequency within you, it goes away because the light is blossoming out. And so it's not that you're denying this, or there's an absence. It's this feeling of bliss permeating out of you like a flower or a rose. It can't stop its smell moving outward. That's this frequency we're talking about with these diamond children coming in. And I sure hope more of them start coming in, because this is very important. What they're doing may be the most important out of all the things, these last two sets of children with the rainbow and these diamonds. And I'm being very serious. Of the state they're coming into is like light bulbs in cities around the world, in countries around the world. Their vibrational frequency is lighting up even if people don't realize it. And it's changing people on subtle levels. So I'll give you another example before I'm talking you guys to death today. Go into the presence. If you've ever been in the presence of like an enlightened master, or a Dalai Lama, or a Buddhist monk, or somebody that meditated in caves in India, you can't change their vibration. You can't upset them. When you're in their presence, you feel this love, this unconditional love, this vibration. And oftentimes when you leave that person, you're physically drained, because you're not used to being in that state that they're always in. So these high vibrational frequency people, you may find that people that aren't in their vibration may be tired until they get used to their vibration. So parents, if you have children that are these diamond kids, you may find you're more exhausted than usual. And it's probably because this kid is at such a high vibration, it drains you. So you know, you can talk to the kid, or you can start doing techniques and things to try to raise your vibration through, diet, exercise, meditating, energy healing, qigong, tai chi. There's tons of them out there. Acupuncture, acupressure, massage. All these different things to get your vibration up. That's going to help raise the consciousness. So they're not born to dysfunctional families because their energy won't tolerate that. The dysfunctional family wouldn't know what to do because their vibration can't be in that dark atmosphere. You see, light expels the dark does not expel the light. So just think of that. They can read feelings of other people. Peacekeepers, unfamiliar with anger, war, and hatred. Like I said earlier, we went through that. Fully embody the divine light and love. So the divine light and love is that frequency. So the heart chakra is represented in astrology as Leo is the sun, and the heart is the chakra of love and compassion. And when we work on opening up our heart chakra, that's opening up to the second stage of enlightenment, which is of unity consciousness, where you have this love for all of mankind. And it's also a person when they've got that achievement within themselves and within their soul, you realize that they're very balanced, because you've got 3 lower chakras. You've got the 3 chakras from the sacrum, the sexual chakra, the solar plexus, heart. That the heart's the 4th. Then you've got 3 up. You've got the neck, throat chakra, the 3rd eye, crown. Well, the heart is the balance of it all. So if you think about energetically, when the Kundalini goes up, it comes back down and it finds balance as the energy moves out. Okay. These kids know all this. I'm explaining it, but these children already know this, and they're coming in with this, and that's so cool. It's unbelievably cool. So they have many sensitivities, including difficulties processing our food. Well, duh, they're sprayed with pesticides and they're junk. So they need fruits. They need high vibrational foods. These kids are going to need high vibrational foods because they're at that high frequency. So these kids aren't wanting to eat donuts and pizza. They're wanting fruits, vegetables, and berries, and greens eventually. Maybe not when they're so young, but I'm thinking that they're going to love that. They love that. They possess telekinetic skills, which we saw with the bending of the spoon and the blocks, telekinetic skills, and they like to communicate telepathically again. How cool would that be? You don't even need to talk. Just your mom lives in the next state over, and you can just telepathically tell her. You don't even have to have a cell phone anymore. All right. So, and all these children love to meditate because they love that connection and that feeling when they're connected to the source or to God or the universal principle of creative intelligence, or all that is, or whatever you call it. These kids love that feeling because you're blissed out in those states of consciousness. It feels like when you're in these states of consciousness I'm talking about, every cell of your being feels like it's having an orgasm all the time. It's almost hard to understand and control when you've hit these states. You're just so blissed out that there is no drug on the planet that could even compare to the bliss of being in that state of cosmic consciousness. Or it's the attunement over and over again with God or the source, connecting with your subconscious mind or your soul on a daily basis brings this vibration. That's where the invincibility part that I'm talking about, where these kids can do things that other people can't, because they're not impacted in their subconscious mind. It doesn't stick. And they've got this bliss about them where they're happy and they're not affected. That's very important. That's why we meditate, to expand our minds and to gain these abilities that these kids have. These are all extraordinary abilities. These kids have definitely been on planets that did spiritual practice like this all the time. And they come in knowing that they need to sit and meditate. It's really beautiful and awesome. I love seeing it. So I want to talk to you about how they come in and go out. So here's a person on the earth plane looking out into our solar system, and we see all these stars, beautiful colors, and it lights the sky up. If you're not in a city and you're outside in nature, you can really see how close the stars are. So we're looking out to where these kids are coming from. So this would be like another galaxy, like we're in the Milky Way. So this is like where they're coming from. It looks like this disc. So everything spirals, if you haven't noticed. Like our planets spiral around the sun at different speeds. This is happening where they come from. And it looks like almost like a portal, because you'll notice there's dark space above and dark space below. I had the name of this system, but I can't recall it right now, but it doesn't really matter because there's so many out there. The galaxy, the universe is billions of light years in distance. So how do they get here? Look at this. This is another solar ring. So if you understand the etheric body or the aura, just think that there's these subtler and subtler planes where, like, when you go to sleep at night, you go to the dream state. Well, you're in a different spiritual world than you are when you're physically awake. And then there's a etheric body you have, and then you have a mental body. So a mental body is what's making up your conscious thinking mind. Then you have a higher mind that thinks higher thoughts, higher ideas. It gives, and then we have these higher other dimensions that bring in through these mechanisms, different things like intuition or genius-like ideas and different things like that. But they all interpenetrate the physical world coming from the source. There's these dimensional realities, and beings exist in all of them. Like I said earlier, Yogananda's teacher, Sri Yuwerksar, said he was asked by God to go to the astral world and look after, in some kind of a way, the astral world. So he went to a different dimensional reality. So what I'm trying to say is, this is how when we die, we traverse. We go in the spirit world through these dimensions that we can't see. And so I'm trying to show this looks like a portal out in space, whatever this is. And here's like a sun or some kind of a bright star. We're seeing different colors and shapes here. So I'm trying to say it's almost like like a Einstein or gosh, I can't think of his name, Stephen Hawking. They used to try to prove about wormholes for time travel. Well, that doesn't mean these things don't exist. They haven't figured out maybe that they're existing in the spiritual domain where you can travel at the speed of light and be somewhere. Okay. So these star kids, if they have telekinesis, telepathic, and all these abilities in the spirit world, you can move at the speed of your mind or the speed of your soul's consciousness of a conscious awareness of where it wants to go. It can probably be there quick in split seconds because, and so this was a beautiful picture of how this is like you could picture these dots as like, you ever see orbs out in nature? They're like, a lot of people talk about them being some kind of an entity or I can't think of the word I'm trying to think of right now, but they're orbs that appear in nature. Well, they're like little, some people call it like little fairy beings or little kinds of things of that nature that they would call those. Well, these could be souls. They're balls of energy. It's consciousness traveling through these things. Because we are not our body. This could be a part of our consciousness moving through this like a freeway. I'm just thinking out loud here of thoughts, and then you can see how it spirals in. See how this spirals in? You're spiraling into the zodiac of where you're going on this wheel, and you're learning about the planet and your mission. You're learning about the planet you're about to incarnate on and the mission and how things are, and you're attuning your energy, you're attuning your consciousness. You're talking to healers and teachers and going through conditioning of love and compassion. And these star children, when they probably have to hear about what war is because they don't even know. So I've talked about this before in other videos. So when we come in from into our constellation, these kids would be coming from outer space, from their star system, and said in that one that one group had no karma. They'd never been here. So they come in through the constellation Aries. Remember how I was talking about how it spirals? They come in and they go through these processes of learning and healing, and they go from Aries to Taurus to Gemini to Cancer, Leo, Virgo, into Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and then they end at Pisces, the last sign of the zodiac. And then they go through the planets. So these are the constellations that they're running through first. And then they go into the planetary body for learning and healing and stuff. So I don't know what happens on all of these planes. I just understand how this works. I don't necessarily remember or recall, from a past life or in between life, like these kids could maybe explain to us. But some people have gone through hypnosis that we've seen that actually talk about building energetic consciousness to store in their self for their life. So their body is attuned to a frequency and a path that's attuned to their chakras, their energy system, and to the planetary bodies, which would also come in contact with their astrology chart so they could see their life path that way. It's all highly interesting. So then they move to Saturn, Jupiter, the sun. So they're just learning the lessons of what Jupiter is all about. Saturn is about rules, laws, and usually it's a karma. But if you're coming with no karma, you're probably going to just learn the rules of the law of society or whatever you're coming into, some kind of spiritual experience for that. Then Jupiter's optimism and abundance. The sun is vitality. It's about it's also could be ego, but it's really about love, giving a lot of yourself and things of that nature. Then Mercury's the mind, but Mercury's also the messenger, and he's also all about healing. So when we leave life, we have all these scars from life, these mental impressions that have stuck with us from our friends hurting our feelings, or car accidents, or people dying or whatever. We have these scars imprinted us on. Mercury is actually not only the winged messenger and the person that communicates, is our concrete practical mind, or the communicator, but a lot of texts talk about Mercury as the healer, like Hermes and Thoth in Egypt, same Mercury being, just different forms. Okay, and so healing goes on there. And then we move on to Mars. Mars is a lot about talk about war and action and actionability and ambition, things of that nature. Venus is where we learn about the principle of love. So these children probably really love being there. And then we go to the moon, where we usually pick up our karma and find out, after all this planning, holy crap, am I really going to be able to do this? And then we dive into the earth and we're born into the physical world. So then when we die, we ascend back out. Okay, so when these kids have fulfilled their mission, they may not have to go through the karmic wheel. I don't believe we always have to go through this karmic wheel. We can go through many kinds of wheels through other planetary galaxies, like the Pleiades, for instance. A lot of people are from there so maybe they get to go back. I don't know every story, but so they would exit same way, boom, 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 boom. And then they exit back out through that tunnel to their next destination. Hopefully it's back to their home planet or home star system, where they can get the healing and love that they need, because these are different kinds of conscious beings, where they probably come from places where they don't even, if they need high vibrational food, they probably come from places that have all kinds of berries or vegetables, or maybe even things we've never even heard of before that they have. Maybe they don't even have to grow it there. Maybe it's a totally different atmosphere. I don't know. So I got a lot of this information from the Star Children and all the children. I got from Meg Blackburn Losi, PhD. So if you want to learn more, you can go to these links, and she has like books and stuff. So I want to thank her for her information and bringing awareness to everybody about these children, because it's important for parents and everyone to understand how the world is changing. And it's changing. We're seeing it globally. And so that's also the outer planets I was talking about. But it's these kids coming to change the world. And so there's going to be, some of them that are rebellious and some that are totally not about that. They want to change things peacefully and do things naturally. And that will happen to the degree that more and more of them bring that high energetic vibration into the world. Because like I said, darkness can't exist in the light. And there's been tons of studies done where people in communities or cities that, like, say 75% of the community meditates on a daily basis, the crime rate drops down. People are not, nobody's getting killed, arrested. All these good things are happening. Why? Because they're connecting to the source. They're like light bulbs. The darkness moves out into other places. It moves out into the surrounding area. because it doesn't want to be there with all these. Their frequency can't come there. So that's what's going on here. It's the frequency change. These people that are of the darkness, and the deep, deep dark won't be able to exist here once this happens, unless they decide that they want to start to change, or they're not going to make it. So anyway, that said, if you liked my video, please give it a thumbs up, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for future videos. I also do, like, every day I put an astrological forecast up that oftentimes doesn't make it on the full video on Instagram or other social sites. So, and if you'd like to schedule as a personal astrology reading with me, visit astrologywithjeffreybryan.com. I also do meditation teachings personally. I also have a meditation download video that teaches people how to meditate like these little kids are meditating, where they're really changing their energy and their structure, and they're tapping into the cosmic mind. That's a deep type of meditation that these kids are connecting to, and how they're getting these abilities. So I have a beginner's download one on that. I won't teach. I might make a second video on how to open up the heart chakra, but any further than that someone goes, we'd have to have a personal consultation, because we're getting into deeper and deeper stuff that I would never give out to anybody that was not ready or using it for good. So that said, today I just released a very powerful download. It's like an MP3 where you only listen to it, and it's a protection video. So let me get out of here. So the protection video, MP3 you listen to, it's like a visualization meditation, but it's an ancient for protection way of protecting the body from negative influence, negative energies. And it's also a way to protect yourself from negative entities or attachments coming into you. So I've made a video the other day about how using substances that aren't good for you, and being around people that use them, how it can eat holes in your subtle bodies, and these little things can attach you. So there's these techniques that are in that video that get rid of it, and then protect you on multiple layers, and also ground you with the earth and with the source energy. So it's about an 8 or 10 minute long little meditation that I have found works better than anything I've ever found for protection. And if you get it, you'll be in a better, safer place energetically than you would be if you didn't put up this protection at all, or clear yourself of this. So anyway, I'll end with that. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.